Good evening and welcome into the Speed Center. I'm Adam Alexander. We are sad to report another tragedy in the racing world tonight. On lap 2 of this morning's MotoGP race in Malaysia, Italian rider Marco Simoncelli involved in a crash that took his life. We will show you the accident, so if you are uncomfortable watching, please look away. Marco was running in the 4th position when he went down at turn 11. He came back across the track and was struck by fellow riders Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi. The race was red flagged and eventually canceled. The Italian rider full of confidence and talent. No doubt he will be missed by all. American Colin Edwards sustained a separated shoulder and Rossi was unhurt in the incident. Dave Despain joins us later to talk more about the career of Simoncelli and to add perspective on what happened in today's race. Again, Marco Simoncelli died from injuries suffered in a crash at this morning's Malaysian Grand Prix. He was 24 years old. You know, it takes a special mentality to climb into a race car and approach speeds of 200 miles per hour on a frequent basis. Drivers in NASCAR Sprint Cup Series fit that mold. They must have short memories, forget what happened last week, and take care of business today. That's exactly what happened at Talladega this afternoon. Race 6 in the chase, and drivers more than ready to put on their helmet and leave a week's worth of tragedy behind. And they did so at one of the fastest tracks on the circuit, the high banks and high speeds of Talladega. And things got mixed up early. Teammates Kyle Busch and Joey Logano with contact. This one they were trying to come to pit road, make a cycle of green flag pit stops. The issue for Joey Logano, a left front tire that tore his fender off. Not good for him and not good for Kyle Busch, who lost his drafting partner. Lap 80, Ryan Newman, Tony Stewart, teammates working together. There goes Newman sliding through the grass at the entrance of pit road. Not been a good chase for driver 39. He finished in the 38th position this afternoon, and Stewart now looking for drafting help. Lap 104, A.J. Allmendinger sliding down in front of the pack. Chasers Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick both involved in this one. Also getting a piece of the action, Jamie McMurray and Juan Pablo Montoya, teammates at Chip Ganassi Racing. You see Harvick right in the middle of the mess. He would go to the garage, spend a bunch of time there. Driver 29 finished 32nd, a big blow to his title hopes. Andy Lally here going into the wall, and as he comes back into traffic, he clips Jimmy Johnson, and that had driver 48 getting impatient. He said, "I'm ready to get to the front."
Let these guys crash or go racing. What do you think, Junior?
I'm not in no big hurry to run up in there, but I thought we got a little bit too far out of it that last little run there. So, you know, I don't think we can start around too long.
Lap 163, more problems. 2000 champion Bobby Labonte sliding into the outside wall, and he comes back down across the track. Nowhere for Kurt Busch to go. Driver 22 finished in the 36th position. His winless streak on plate tracks is over, and his championship hopes are as well. His drafting partner all day, Regan Smith, who takes a hard hit here, nose first into the safer barrier. Regan Smith would walk away but finish in the 30th position today at Talladega. 2 laps to go. Jeff Burton strong, and he's getting drafting help from his teammate Clint Bowyer at the front, and it would be decided between these two. Final lap off of turn 4. Bowyer not going to push his teammate to the victory. He's going for his 2nd straight fall win at Talladega, pulling out of line. How about this? Contact in the tri-oval. Bowyer going to get it done. And check it out, after the race, a fire in the garage area. That's Regan Smith's hauler. They would get the fire extinguished, and luckily, no one was injured. We look at top 10 results from the day, and how about this? 5 chasers finished inside the top 24. That tells you what a tough day it was for them. Bowyer at the top of the board gets the victory. Dave Blaney finished 3rd this afternoon. Brad Keselowski, your top chaser, in the 4th position. Brian Vickers and Casey Kane strong all day long for Team Red Bull, and there's Tony Stewart. No drafting help, but he finished in the 7th position. Now we go to Bob Dillner with today's winner, Clint Bowyer.
A big day for Clint Bowyer here at the Talladega Super Speedway. He's got the big 100 on his chest. 100 wins as well for Richard Childress Racing in the Sprint Cup Series. But let's talk about that battle coming to the line off of turn 4. All bets are off, aren't they?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's that way. I wanted him to win that race. He's been such a good teammate of mine. Of course, you always want to win the race, but he's worked well with you. I was hoping that it would come down to a bunch of packs, and it would be our teamwork that won the race. Ultimately, it was. We were able to bunch up on those restarts and push each other, get connected, get up through the gearbox better than everybody else, and that's what got us in that situation. But coming down to there, it's just like, we had a moment on the back straight. He was like, "Bet you think you're going to pass me on the front straightaway?" And I was chuckling. I'm like, "That's exactly what I'm thinking right now." But I felt like I needed to do that. I knew that it was too early. I remember Harvick telling me exactly where he made the move, but I felt like I owed him at least an opportunity to make a drag race out of it.
And you got a special car, special paint scheme today, and a special win for old RC over there.
Yeah, man, the stars just lined up. It's the 100th anniversary of Chevrolet. They put the paint scheme on a car. It was such a sharp-looking race car. And then it was, if I won the race, it was going to be Richard's 100th win. It was just, there's too much going on there for that not to be.
And the bottom line is Richard Childress, because of Clint Bowyer and Jeff Burton, gets his 100th Sprint Cup win.
And no doubt about it, Bob, Clint Bowyer may be leaving at the end of the year, but he'll remember this victory forever because it is the century mark for RC. 67 of those victories by the late Dale Earnhardt. 6th win of the season. Kevin Harvick delivering most of those. And how about this? The 12th at Talladega. That's the most of anybody, breaking a tie with Rick Hendrick. So the good news is RC got the victory. The bad news is his title contender, Kevin Harvick, had a rough day. Harvick entered the day the runner-up in points, and he is now 5th, dropping 3 positions and is 26 points out. Carl Edwards at the top of the board in points, 14 markers in front of his teammate Matt Kenseth, and Brad Keselowski with a top 5 today, only 18 out in the 3rd position. Now we hear from today's runner-up, Jeff Burton.
That's what this is all about. You find somebody that's going to work with you. And Clint and I work really well together. We worked really hard at all the plate races together. And, he just did a better job than me there at the end. His car was a little quicker than mine all day long. That's why my car was better leading. Whenever he would lead, I'd just be bouncing off of him. But he did a really nice job. I actually thought he made his move too early. I thought he had gone too early, but he pulled it off. And I didn't mean to hit him, but he got on the apron and came up, and I was coming down. I thought, oh no, this will be big. But fortunately, nothing bad happened, and it was fun. I'm disappointed because obviously you want to win, and especially after the year we've had. But at the same time, I'm proud we put ourselves in position and had a game plan, and the game plan worked.
Well, I was a lead car most of the time with Brad pushing, and you get such a run sometimes, and I wasn't good enough at keeping Brad on me. I'd just take off and we'd separate. So I was not good at that a lot of the day, but at the end he stayed right with me, and we got part of the way there.
Interesting, the whole race. How about that? But worked really hard with Dave Blaney all day, and he was a great helper, and enjoyed racing with him, and stayed patient, stayed smart, brought her home up front at the end.
It's more than a little bit of a victory. 5 or 6 years ago, I'd have been mad, thinking I could have won this race, but I've sat backwards enough and, in the grass, and had torn up cars enough and ruined good championship positions here that I know what a gift this is. So for us to come out of here with our Subway Fusion intact, and it's unbelievable. I gotta thank Greg Biffle. I cannot thank him enough. It's unbelievable how good of a job he did today and how he stuck with me. And all they cared about at the end was where we finished. That means a lot.
Time now to head back to the track and welcome in Bob Dillner to Speed Center. He's been covering the on-track activity all weekend for Speed. And, Bob, let's start out and talk strategy. You can lay in the back all day long hoping to avoid a big accident. Sometimes that doesn't pay off. A couple of chase drivers finding that out today.
Yeah, definitely. Take a look at Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Dale Earnhardt Jr. did not want to stay in the back. He wanted to run up front, and they both had cars capable of doing so. But team orders came down, and both Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. understood the program and the plan for today. They decided to go to the back, just chill out back there. But they were never quite able to make that run. And like I said, they had very good race cars here today, so a big surprise with just 10 laps to go that they were not marching forward forward to the front. Now, another guy that was really hot after the race, actually with just a couple laps to go, was Kyle Busch. He kind of played it safe as well today, you know, drafting with Joey Logano and a couple of other guys out there. And he came on the radio at one point with just a couple laps to go and said, Dave, see, you can run up front. The 31 and the 33 have been up front all. Could have gotten some better finishes today for our bunch. So a lot of guys involved in the points battle, very aggravated by that lackadaisical, I shouldn't say lackadaisical, I should say conservative mode here today at Talladega.
Carl Edwards, the championship leader, also conservative. It pays off for him. He finishes in the 11th position, but more importantly, pads his point lead with 4 races to go. That bunch has got to feel good.
And what he told me after the race, honestly, Adam, was the fact that this 11th place run felt like a victory. He was so excited by being able to come out of here, pad his point lead just a little bit over Matt Kenseth now. But he said, you know, a couple of years ago, he would have been really frustrated with an 11th place run, even if he were in the title hunt. But today, to come out of here and escape one, to survive Talladega with that point lead, he certainly told me that he's going to sleep just a little bit easier this week.
A good news, bad news situation for Richard Childress Racing. Clint Bowyer gets the victory. That obviously the good. The bad, Kevin Harvick in the chase, crashes out, finishes 32nd. What's that do to his championship run?
Well, honestly, he's the last man standing right now, I think. You take a look at the top 5 in points. You know, Kevin Harvick sits 5th in points, 26 markers back. I think he's just clinging on to those championship hopes. We all knew that this was going to be the wild card. We never thought that Kevin Harvick would get caught up in the big one. Certainly hurt his chances today. But right now, if you take a look at it, those top 5 guys, it's really down to a 5-horse race for this championship. We all know that Phoenix will be a wild card. Nobody knows what to expect there. And you go to a track like Martinsville, the paperclip, a half mile, a short track. But even with a banged up race car, you can still finish in the top 20 there. It's going to be hard for the guys out of the top 5 in those point standings to come up and contend for this title.
You mentioned Martinsville. It's next up. Bob, we'll see you in the Speed Center next Sunday afternoon in Southern Virginia.
Looking forward to it, buddy.
And NASCAR teams at Talladega paying tribute to Dan Wheldon this weekend, 1 week after we lost the 2005 IndyCar champion. His racing brothers carrying his Lionheart decal on their cars. Some put Wheldon stickers on their helmets. A memorial held for the 2-time 500 winner in Indianapolis today. Robin Miller joins us live when Speed Center continues. And we will visit with Dave Despain to reflect back on the life of Marco Simoncelli. The 24-year-old lost his life in a crash at this morning's Malaysian Grand Prix. Speed Center is coming back after a break. Please stay with us. It's been a difficult week in the world of motorsports. MotoGP in Sepang this morning, and tragedy struck on lap 2 of the Malaysian Grand Prix. 24-year-old Italian rider Marco Simoncelli involved in a crash that took his life. We will show you the accident now, so if you're uncomfortable watching, please look away. 2 laps in, and Simoncelli riding in the 4th position. He went down in turn 11. He and his bike came back across the track and were struck by riders Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi. For those of you who don't know, MotoGP is the Formula One for bikes. These riders, the best in all the world at what they do. Officials opted to cancel the remainder of today's race in Sepang. You look at the history for Marco Simoncelli, a world champion on the 250cc's back in 2008. His first win on a 125 bike coming in the Grand Prix of Spain back in 2004. And this season he really started to come into his own at racing's top level. A couple of poles and a couple of podiums. But sadly, he has died at age 24. Dave Despain joins us now in the Speed Center, and when you look at Marco Simoncelli's resume, no doubt impressive, and one that I think we all expected to grow in the coming years.
And a resume about which there were a lot of questions. Where is this kid headed? What's his potential? How good is he going to be? He certainly demonstrated when he won the World Championship in the 250 class that he was a potential star of the future and was very much embraced by the Italians, who love their motorcycle racing and particularly love their motorcycle racers colorful and outrageous and aggressive, and he was all of those things. But that aggression got him into some trouble when he got into MotoGP. He didn't make that transition nearly as smoothly as, for example, Valentino Rossi, who is still the national hero in Italy. He didn't get the results. He had tremendous speed. And then he got into a couple of run-ins with big names, Danny Pedrosa and the world champion Jorge Lorenzo, who criticized him as being too aggressive. It seemed to me, Adam, that he had made some progress in getting over that, got a couple podiums in the second half of this season, got his deal renewed with Honda. I think we were going to see, the best was still ahead for this kid, and it's a big loss for motorcycle racing.
No question, and he was a dynamic personality, no doubt about it, and that's what you had to have if you were going to be successful in MotoGP.
Takes a lot of fire, takes a lot of drive, takes a lot of courage, and a lot of determination, and I think he had all the, Roger Penske said it, you know, it's easier to slow him down than it is to speed him up. I think once he got the maturity that he had the potential to be a really big star.
I know you guys are going to talk more about Simoncelli tonight on Wind Tunnel.
And sadly, more about the whole situation with Dan Weldon. It's been a rough couple of weeks in racing. We'll have Robin Miller and Mario Andretti to talk about that. On a brighter note, America has a new world champion in motorcycle racing. Speedway champion Greg Hancock will be on the show. And we'll talk to the soon-to-be crowned for the second year in a row World of Outlaw Sprint Car champion Jason Myers.
Always a good lineup. We'll see you for Wind Tunnel at 8 p.m. Eastern following Speed Center.
Thanks, Adam.
So much more on the Dan Weldon crash tonight. The funeral for the two-time Indianapolis 500 winner held yesterday in St. Petersburg, Florida. 1,200 mourners attended services. Fellow IndyCar drivers and longtime friends Dario Franchitti and Tony Kanaan among those serving as pallbearers. Fans and drivers paying their respects at a memorial service today in Indianapolis. Wife Susie in attendance, and as did fellow champion and friend Dario Franchitti and former teammate Tony Kanaan. It has been a tough week on all, but today they managed to create a smile.
And by the way, we didn't want him. He was a brother that we didn't ask for. I mean, a guy that looks better than the three of us. Younger, hungry for a win.
Won more races. Yeah.
Yes. He was the only one of us. He was the only one of us that looked like he belonged in the boy band.
A bit of humor at today's ceremony, no doubt beginning the healing process. In fact, today more like a roast than a memorial service. Those fun moments, good to see, no doubt about it. Time now to welcome in Robin Miller, who was at the service, and he joins us live from Indianapolis. Robin, good to have you with us in the Speed Center. And today, no doubt, a true celebration of Dan's life. That was great to see.
Well, I think if you knew Weldon, Adam, he had such a great sense of humor, and I think Brian Herta taught him a lot about practical jokes and how to take a joke, and I think that's exactly what this whole community needed, especially, you know, it's got to be extremely tough on his wife, Susie, to go through this 2 days in a row, and today it was a much lighter, I mean, it was just a much more happy group as far as trying to remember the good times about Dan Weldon. That's what a memorial is supposed to do, and a lot of great video and highlights of his life. Mike Kitchell, his PR man from when he was at Panther, told some great stories about stealing each other's cell phones. So I think the whole mood was kind of shifted today from this overwhelming grief to trying to remember what an impact he had on people and on racing.
And Robin, a lot of people asking what's next in regard to safety for IndyCar, and that's something we asked Graham Rahal about today.
I hope tomorrow's meeting will be good. What I think has been really good is that, you know, normally when we send emails around all the drivers, we get maybe only one or two guys that actually say something. And in this case, I think almost everybody's responded. And that's what we need. We need everybody to share their opinions, everybody to stand up if we're going to improve this series and get it going forward. And you know what? It's sad to say, but up until this point, even things that the drivers have said, it's almost as if we don't matter. And now I think that we've got a little more power. And I think as a drivers association, hopefully we can stand up and make the changes that we all believe in. And I think if you look at the emails, everybody's saying the same things. Everybody wants the same changes, and hopefully we can make it happen.
Graham Rahal in his comments there referring to a meeting that will take place tomorrow between IndyCar and their drivers. Robin, this is not something we often see, so what do you expect in this meeting?
I expect just about every driver to be there, Adam, and I think they're all going to voice their opinions about oval track racing, the way the cars should be, horsepower, downforce, all the things they've been talking about. I mean, this is no secret that I think everybody for the last 10 years have always kind of cringed a little bit every time you go to Texas or you went to Chicago or Vegas or wherever. 1.5 mile tracks were NASCAR tracks, and the cars were going so fast, and pack racing was a very dangerous thing. Kenny Brack called me last Wednesday morning and said, well, it finally happened, and he was the first guy that had the worst crash I've ever seen in 2003, and he survived it at Texas. So I think tomorrow Randy Bernard's going to get an earful from the drivers who are respectfully going to say, listen to us on this, we know what we're talking about, here's what we want to see happen.
This story, no doubt, had a major emotional impact on the entire racing community. Among those speaking out this week, 5-time NASCAR champion Jimmie Johnson.
Those cars are going so fast and get airborne frequently on ovals that I wouldn't run them on ovals. And there's just no need to. I mean, you're just creating situations to get the car off the ground at a high rate of speed. There's very little crumple zone around the driver, and then obviously it's an open cockpit. And then you add open wheels. Hate that this tragedy took place, but hopefully they can learn some things from it and make those cars safer on ovals somehow. I don't know how you really do it. I just rather see them on, myself, I have a lot of friends that race in that series. I'd rather see them on street circuits and road courses and no more ovals.
And no doubt about it, when Jimmie made those comments, it stirred plenty of controversy in the IndyCar community. Robin, I know you had a chance to talk to Jimmie after he made those comments earlier this week.
Yeah, and I think all the drivers knew what he meant. He was talking about not IndyCar should still be at Indianapolis and on ovals, just not 1.5 mile high banked ovals that were specifically made for NASCAR. And he didn't clarify that in the interview he gave that we just played the tape. So he called Paul Tracy and said, you guys all hate me? And Tracy said no. And so I told Tracy, I said, have him call me, we'll work on damage control. And I think he get the message out, what he was trying to say. Of course IndyCars still belong on ovals. They just have to be really careful if they're going to run 1.5 mile ovals. They shouldn't be in this configuration with this pack racing.
Robin, no doubt a tough time for IndyCar. Hopefully we can learn from this situation and move forward. We thank you for all the coverage today from Indianapolis.
Thank you, Adam.
7 days ago, we lost Dan Wheldon in Las Vegas. A sad day for everyone in the motorsports world. However, the outpouring of emotion this week reminds us of the great impact Dan had on so many lives. A champion on and off the track. He will be missed.
Speed Center is presented by Honda Powersports. Tough, innovative ATVs and MUVs that are built to work. Brought to you in part by 1-800-MOTORCYCLE. If you've been in a motorcycle accident, speak to a lawyer you can trust at 1-800-MOTORCYCLE. And by Forza Motorsport 4 on Xbox 360.
Australian V8 supercars mixing things up at the gorgeous Surfers Paradise this weekend. And after the 2 races, we have a new championship leader. We've got the highlights later on Speed Center. Right now, we're talking trucks at Talladega. When you are trying to run down a championship, it's nice to have experience on your side. Ron Hornaday has plenty of that. Unfortunately, in 2011, he's had plenty of bad luck as well. 6 times, the 4-time champ has finished outside the top 15. However, back-to-back wins got him right back in title contention just in time for 4 races to go. There's the man everybody chasing, Austin Dillon. He started 3rd yesterday at Talladega. Hornaday's got a new teammate for the race. It's Mike Wallace driving the 33, and Hornaday pushing him to the lead early. Lap 12, another KHI truck having problems. Nelson Piquet Jr., Josh Richards involved, and Kyle Busch getting a little damage there. Jeffrey Earnhardt in on the problem as well. Lap 36, Johnny Sauter, who entered 2nd in the championship, involved in an accident. So was his teammate, Matt Crafton. Sauter would lose a lap, spend a ton of time on pit road, but he did rally back. And speaking of rallying, 20 to go, and here comes your points leader, Austin Dillon, in the outside lane, getting some drafting help from Kyle Busch, who pushes him into the lead. That's big time. 12 to go, caution is out. Chris Fontaine hit the outside wall and the inside wall. Another caution for debris, and look who's back on the lead lap. Johnny Sauter got the free pass and finished in the 15th position. Under this caution, Dillon saving fuel while running in the top 5, but NASCAR says he didn't maintain speed. He dropped to 20th in the running order. Let's go to the finish. KHI teaming up. Hornaday pushing Mike Wallace. They would hold off James Busher and Ricky Carmichael, and it's going to be Mike Wallace getting his first Truck Series win in 11 years. Let's hear from him. Here's Ray Dunlap.
So Mike Wallace back in Victory Lane in Camping World Truck Series racing. When Kevin Harvick called you, did you think maybe it was a prank?
No, I mean, because his phone number came up as Kevin Harvick. Fortunately, I had him on my phone, and this is an incredible opportunity for me, Ray. I mean, it's been a while since I've been in Victory Lane, and work hard, and a lot of people doubt your ability, and Kevin gave me the opportunity. Hornaday and the whole KHI crew.
If there wasn't another couple of trucks racing with you guys, if you had kept a big lead, would you have pulled over to let Hornaday win for the championship points?
Kevin Harvick told me that he didn't care who won the race, and no, I wouldn't have pulled over for him. He would have maybe drove, he could have maybe drove by me, but Hornaday knows how important this is to me to win, just like I know how important it is to him. You never give up an opportunity, and this is, like I told Kevin, this is just means so much to me.
And now we have our Capital One driver spotlight. Look at that. It's Mike Wallace. We told you it was his first truck win in 11 years. That happened at Bakersfield, California. It's his 5th career victory and his 2nd super speedway win, the other coming in that dramatic finish at Daytona back in 2000. We look at results from yesterday at Talladega. For Mike Wallace, his first NASCAR win since back in 2004, also at Daytona. Yes, he's good at that kind of racing. Ron Hornaday, 2nd. What a run he's been on. First, and 2nd of the last 3 races. Austin Dillon still has the point lead because he rallied for a top 10 finish yesterday.
The thing that matters is I got it started up before I got back to the start-finish line, and I thought I got all my positions back. I didn't really never stop. The truck never stopped. It was rolling. So if they can show me where I completely stopped and lost 20 positions to the checkered, they can't, I don't think. Just one of those deals. So we'll go on to the next one. At least I think we're still the points leader. I don't know. But we'll go to Martinsville and go kick some ass.
I just know that I got into the back of him harder than what I obviously wanted to and got him turned around. But that's just racing, I think. And we could have did a better job there and got a better than a 15th place finish. But nonetheless, we're still close, and 3 really great racetracks coming up for us: Texas, Martinsville, Homestead, and just got to race like hell and see what happens.
Johnny Sauter battling through adversity, 14 points out. He drops to 3rd. James Busher only 3 points out in the 2nd position. And Austin Dillon continues to be your leader in the General Auto Championship standings. Ron Hornaday, 16 points out. Martinsville is next up, and here's what's coming up on Speed Center.
The Cup Boys on the hunt in the heart of Dixie. NASCAR's best call, Talladega, a wild card. And this roll of the dice did not disappoint. Escape with us to the Gold Coast. V8 supercar style. Familiar faces make the trip. So, who got down to business down under? World Rally hits Spain for the penultimate race in 2011. And a tie at the top has these guys kicking up the perfect dust storm. This is Speed Center.
Welcome back to Speed Center, presented by Honda. I'm Adam Alexander. Another tragedy in motorsports today. Marco Simoncelli, a 24-year-old Italian, lost his life in a crash at this morning's MotoGP Malaysian Grand Prix. Officials canceled the race following the accident that occurred at lap 2. This afternoon, Sprint Cup teams in Talladega, Alabama, race 6 in the chase. Trouble for title contender Kevin Harvick, lap 103. He gets some big-time damage. He finished in the 32nd position. He's 5th in the standings now. Right here Regan Smith shot into the wall. He finished 30th. The good news is he was okay after that hard crash. Final lap, all about Richard Childress Racing. Jeff Burton leading, but Clint Boyer breaking the draft and going around on the inside through the trioval they touch. But it's Clint Boyer who wins for the second straight year.
We were doing good all day. The spotter was doing great, and running with Regan Smith, just nowhere to go. The 47 got flung by Michael Waltrip. He went low, he went high. He was starting to come back up when I was zigging, zagging low. So our championship hopes are done just because of this two-car Talladega draft.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that wasn't the day that we wanted, but you know, the way the rest of those guys raced, it didn't devastate us. So, you know, we wanted to be in the front. We thought that was a safer place to be than in case the thing went green, and I thought I was around a pretty good group of cars there, and I don't know what happened, but it's one of those deals.
Yeah, luckily the contact didn't do any damage to the car. Just kind of scared us and challenged my drifting skills as I was trying to keep the car from spinning out on the apron, but it certainly didn't get the result that we wanted today.
You know, it's not my style of racing, and being pushed and carried on all day long, trying to lead a couple laps that are sort of meaningful or meaningless, really doesn't make a lot of sense either. So really, you don't really have, neither alternative's that great, you know. Pushing around and leading laps and racing up for the front in a 500-mile race when, you know, there's no real true, that's not a strategy that's really putting yourself in a position to win.
On now to the Honda points. Only 4 races to go to the championship. Carl Edwards feeling good. A 14-point advantage over his teammate Brad Keselowski and Tony Stewart hanging in 18 and 19 points back respectively. And Kevin Harvick feeling the damage. He's 5th, 26 points out. He dropped 3 positions. And get out your sunscreen. After a break, Speed Center is headed to the beach. Surfers Paradise hosting the Australian V8 Supercars. And we've got the highlights. Stay with us. When the Australian V8 Supercar schedule comes out, drivers and fans put a circle around the dates for their trip to the Gold Coast. The events at Surfers Paradise attract some big-time international talent, and there is quite a party when the sun goes down. Let's go racing. Yep, Dan Weldon was scheduled to race this weekend, and all the drivers paying honor to Dan in many different ways. You see the sticker on the visor. Race 1. Standing start, giving some of the international drivers trouble. No doubt about that. Big problems for Craig Lowndes, who entered the championship leader. His team out early with mechanical problems and also having issues. Ryan Briscoe and Garth Tander. Tander won a couple of weeks ago. A miscue on strategy. Tough day for them. Jamie Whincup started on the pole. He and Sebastian Bourdais win race 1. Race 2, more problems at the start. This time, it's Ryan Briscoe who can't get going, and the bad luck just beginning. At lap 11, a broken rear axle. He and Garth Tander spent a lot of time on the pit lane, got things fixed, and we're back out, but unfortunately unable to contend. Lap 35, we got driver changes, and I got to tell you, this is my favorite part of the event. Some guys getting in, some getting out, and it is an interesting time on the pit lane, no doubt about it. Back to the racing, Jamie Whincup going around his teammate Craig Lowndes for the race lead. And then we get a safety car, and Lowndes gets trapped on pit road, taking him out of contention in race 2. Will Davison actually took over the race lead, but tire issues forced him to pit. Now, that gave the top spot to guess who? Jamie Whincup. But with 7 to go, here comes Mark Winterbottom. Yes, I said Mark Winterbottom. His first win of the year, his second on the Gold Coast. For more reaction, let's hear from Mike Joy and Darrell Waltrip.
It promised to be a great weekend of racing. And Saturday, after Team Vodafone Holden's domination of the 300 kilometers here at the Gold Coast, well, if they had one punch yesterday and they had both cars running well today, you expect they would have dominated. And they did for a while. Sebastian Bourdais did a great job leading from pole Andy Prio did a tremendous job for Craig Lowndes, and then they made the driver swap, and suddenly it was a one-car effort again.
Yeah, the way the pit strategy works here, the lead car in the team, he gets to come in the pit and he gets his service done first. The two Vodafone's cars came in together, and when Whincup was leading the race, he got out first. Lowndes, he came back out in about 12th, 15th. That did him in. He never was able to move forward after that. And I think at the end we saw a guy that's thinking championship. He's got to lead back now. Whincup does after the race yesterday. He wanted to protect that lead, and he opened that door a little bit. And old Winterbottom, he shot the gap and took the lead and won the race.
Well, on the pit stop, the best thing Whincup saw was Lowndes waiting for service in his mirror.
Yeah.
The worst thing he saw was Winterbottom pressuring him relentlessly for 30-some laps. First for second place, and then when Alex Davison made his pit stop, final pit stop for fuel, the battle was for the lead. And I really thought Winterbottom was going to have to move Whincup if he was going to win this race.
Yeah, but it takes such discipline at the end of these races, Mike. You're on worn-out tires. You're low fuel. And then you got to hold off somebody that's hungry. Wants a win. First win of the year for those guys, Winterbottom.
Holden wins Saturday. Ford wins Sunday. A great weekend of racing in the Gold Coast of Australia.
And in a tribute to the late Dan Wheldon this weekend, the international driver scoring the most points in the two races was awarded the Dan Wheldon Memorial Trophy. Sebastian Bourdais, who teamed with Jamie Whincup, took this honor home. Here he is with our Lee Diffie.
Adam, as you know, it's a week for the motorsport world where we have all had very, very heavy hearts, and this here was something special. It's been created. It's the Dan Wheldon Memorial Trophy for the best international driver, and here on the streets of Surfers Paradise, it's a very special place for Sebastian Bourdais. And Seb, I know that this will be a very special trophy in your cabinet.
Yeah, well, the trophy I don't care so much, but obviously what happened last weekend was really, difficult. I mean, obviously, I can relate very closely to this because I got two kids which are pretty much the same age as Dan's, and I can only feel for the family. It's always tougher for the ones who stay. So yeah, it was a really horrible thing, and we'll for sure we'll try and make sure that it never happens again. Although racing will remain dangerous, but we try to put on a good show with the heavy hearts we had, and put it aside. Show must go on. But yeah. Thanks to everyone, and hope there is a racetrack up there.
So there you see Sebastian Bourdais with the best average finish between the two races, 1.5. Gilles de Ferran and Helio Castroneves, old teammates at Team Penske, tying with an 11th place average finish. And, well, the man at Team Penske now with Helio Castroneves, tough weekend for Ryan Briscoe, 17 his average finish between the two races. And off week for Formula One on track. So how did they make headlines? You've got to see it to believe it. A world record in jeopardy when Speed Center continues, and World Rally with a little chase for the ages. We've got that story coming up. Gotta love the World Rally. Day 3 in Spain. Sebastian Loeb, Mico Hirvonen coming in tied for the championship lead, and the Spanish crowd loving what they're seeing out of the hometown boy, Danny Sordo. Mini driver, finished in the 4th position. Good year for them. Jari-Matti Latvala, another good day, but he incurred a 2-minute penalty on purpose to help his teammate. That would be Mico Hirvonen to aid him in the championship chase. Hirvonen able to finish 2nd today, but he couldn't do anything with Sebastian Loeb, who dominated the weekend. It's his 7th win in Spain. He won 5 stages this weekend, the final round in Great Britain. And guess who your championship leader will be when we get there? Yes, the man who's won 7 in a row, Sebastian Loeb, with an 8-point advantage over Hirvonen. Ogier came into the weekend only 3 points out, but engine problems, and now he's out of the hunt. 29 markers behind, as we said, only 1 round to go in World Rally. Turns out Sebastian Vettel, not the only one setting records in an F1 car. We're going after a world record in a Formula One machine after a break right here on Speed Center. Please don't go away.
You're watching Speed Center, presented by Honda.
So how does the youngest double champion in F1 history spend a weekend off? Sebastian Vettel spent his off weekend doing a meet and greet at the Red Bull factory in England. He appears relaxed ahead of next week's event in India.
I love what I do, and again last Sunday I enjoyed myself so much, so I'm looking forward to go to India now and race there on a new track. Yeah, I think it will be a very tough new challenge for us, getting used to a new circuit in only a very short amount of time. So I see the positives. You know, it's not really an obligation for me to fly out and race in India.
F1's newest circuit in India formally opened on Tuesday with Red Bull driver Neil Janning getting the first official laps in a show car. Leading up to this week, there had been plenty of concerns about whether the track would be ready in time. The venue has been described as a roller coaster ride. Organizers are predicting over 100,000 fans on race day. Both driver and constructor titles wrapped up in Formula One. Team Red Bull still into rewriting the record books. No Tom Cruise needed behind the wheel this week. The team trying to set the world record for the highest F1 ride. And India had just the place to deliver. Mission accomplished.
The world record for the highest ever F1 car drive.
And some big off-track news for Formula One this week. On Tuesday, officials expected to announce a race for New Jersey in 2013 with Manhattan as a backdrop. Speed will carry the press conference live. You can see it at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We look forward to that.
Speed Center is presented by Honda Power Sports. Tough, innovative ATVs and MUVs that are built to work. Brought to you in part by Hankook Tires. Be one with it, Hankook Tires. And by the United States Air Force. Experience more at airforce.com.
A non-chase driver finally won a chase race. Final lap at Talladega today. A couple of RCR drivers going at it. Clint Bowyer and Jeff Burton. Bowyer breaking the draft, contacting the tri-oval. It's Clint Bowyer who delivers Richard Childress his 100th win as an owner. So who else has helped RC get to the century mark? Dale Earnhardt has been the best of the bunch 67 times. He went to victory lane between 84 and 2000. Harvick number 2. Bowyer and Burton third and fourth respectively. And who could forget Paul Menard winning the Brickyard 400 earlier this season. 4 weeks remain in the NASCAR season. Plenty of news in the garage as silly season heats up. Our reporters deliver the knowledge in our final lap.
On Monday, the Toyota teams will test at Rockingham Speedway in preparation for next April's race there. Also on the Toyota front, I have learned that Denny Hamlin will be in the 18 next week when we get to Martinsville.
Well, this has been an amazing weekend on the Gold Coast with the international stars enjoying V8 supercars. However, in January of next year, we may see a swap with Aussies coming to America. Remember, it's the 50th anniversary running of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, and many top-line drivers and teams have told me they've already been in touch with some Grand Am Daytona prototype teams to race at the World Center of Racing.
A big announcement here today at Talladega in the Crew Chief Sweepstakes. JTG Daugherty Racing announcing that Todd Berrier will move over from Richard Childress Racing to the 47 team to be the crew chief for Bobby Labonte next year. I'm also told that while they will go to their own shop, they will still get cars, which will be Toyotas, from Michael Waltrip Racing.
Ah, yes, it's silly season. Let the announcements begin. We thank you so much for being with us on the Speed Center tonight. A great guest lineup on Wind Tunnel with Dave Despain. It's next. Mario Andretti is the headliner. We'll see you next week for Speed Center. I'm Adam Alexander. So long. Have a great night, everybody.
You've been watching Speed Center.